Common scams everyone still falls for. The printer ink plot. Let me know if this sounds familiar. It's back to school season and you need a printer. You've got homework, projects, and lots of things that you need to print out, and for that reason, you're going to BroBuy to buy a printer. Luckily for you, there is tons of back to school sales, and you find the perfect printer for you for only $50. This printer looks solid, comes from a reputable brand, and even comes with ink. And although it was originally $100, for you, today it's $50. You buy this printer from BroBuy, you go back to your dorm room, and as the school semester begins, you realize your ink begins to get low. Obviously, ink is a consumable item, so you understand you have to replace it eventually, but this seems a bit quick. Regardless, you go back to BroBuy and begin to find the perfect ink replacement. Now, the first thing that's not really a scam, but is definitely irritating, is the crazy naming structure of ink cartridges. Like, if you somehow forgot to bring the Rosetta Stone to the printer ink section of BroBuy, you're gonna go home empty-handed or with ink that's not gonna fit your printer. Regardless, assuming you know exactly what you're looking for, you find this printer ink was not so much of a deal. The printer you bought only a month ago was $50, but this printer ink is $55. Obviously, this has to be a mistake, and you go to ask the employee if this is right, and they tell you, yeah, printer ink is expensive, it's hard to manufacture, blah, 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 blah. And you, being clever, decide that, well, if the ink is more, I'm just gonna buy another printer. But you go to the printer section only to realize that the printer is no longer on sale. And your options now are a $100 full price printer or $55 ink. And you take the $55 ink cartridge to the cash register, you check out, and you head home. If this sounds even remotely familiar to you, then I'm sorry to tell you, you have been scammed. Considering it's 2025, I would definitely say that most people are privy to the fact that printer ink cartridges are a scam. However, I would argue that most people are still oblivious to the fact of exactly how deep this scam runs, which is why this entry is on this list, and I'm going to expose the scam even further. To lay the foundation, the general business model of ink cartridge printers essentially goes like this. These companies produce a relatively quality printer, typically selling them with very thin margins or even sometimes at a loss, knowing that the real money is going to be made on the back end with their ink. And they ensure this back end business in multiple ways. The first method that these brands use is creating a proprietary ink cartridge that only works with their printers. This ensures that the consumer is not buying ink from other big brands or even smaller third parties that could give a better deal, meaning that the person who bought the cheap printer is now locked into their overpriced ink. But of course, it doesn't stop there. So now that we have a basic understanding of the bait and switch tactics that printer companies use to sell cheap printers but expensive ink, how else are they actually scamming you? Well, for starters, the cartridges that you are buying are basically empty. There are tons of videos online of people cracking open these ink cartridges only for them to be filled with foam and drops of ink. Literally drops. According to some of the YouTube videos I saw, these ink cartridges claimed to have 11 milliliters of ink, but actually only contained 3 milliliters of usable ink, which is ridiculous if you keep in mind the fact that you're paying anywhere from $10 to $50 for this ink. Those are some pretty expensive milliliters. Not only are these printer companies forcing you to buy their cartridges and forcing you to pay egregious prices for minimal ink, these printers are also wasting this precious ink that you spent your hard-earned money on. No, literally, let's say that you want to print a full-page document in just black. Regardless of what you choose, your printer is still going to use black and color ink just because. Now, some people claim that the reason that printers do this is to ensure that your black is as vibrant and as rich as it could be. However, a YouTuber by the name of Fstoppers tested this, and he printed out a document in black, and then he printed another document in black, but he covered the tip of the color cartridge to see if there was a difference. And what he was able to confirm was both documents looked the exact same, meaning that the colored ink with the black ink made no difference in the final product, meaning that the printer is literally wasting your colored ink even on fully black prints. So while the printer companies say they're just enhancing your black with a little bit of blue or a little bit of pink, the reality is you cannot say no to this option and use only your black ink. And if you can't even say no to this function, to me, that's a scam. But once again, it doesn't end there. Not only are printers wasting your ink by adding colors you don't need to black prints, most cartridge printers go through something known as a cleaning cycle. And these typically occur either every time the printer is turned on or every time the printer prints something. And at a surface level, this makes sense. A printer is using a very fine tip to deliver a very precise amount of ink on a paper without having it bleed or smear. So for that reason, having a clean printer ink tip makes sense. However, this cleaning cycle is extremely wasteful. And not only does it just clean the tip of the cartridge, but in some cases, this cleaning cycle causes ink to come out of the cartridge and over time typically results in half of the ink cartridge being wasted just on this cleaning cycle. You can't tell me that's not at least a bit intentional, or at least hasn't been fixed for a reason. Oh, and don't even get me started on trying to refill these cartridges because, well, first of all, you literally can't even open them, and if you try to, there's an extremely high chance that your printer will just reject the tampered with cartridge to begin with. I've been talking talking about printers way too much, and we have a lot of ground to cover in this video. Oh, don't even get me started on the environmental aspect of all of the wasted cartridges and all of the toxic ink. That's a whole different disaster. The diamond disaster. Similar to the ink cartridge scam, I think that in this day and age, most people are privy to the fact that diamonds are not as rare as they say, and the market is for the most part propped up by manipulation and lies. And while I could make an entire video about the sheer depravity of the diamond industry, covering topics like forced child labor and market manipulation, however, for the purpose of this video, I'm going to focus on one specific subset of the diamond industry, the diamond engagement ring scam. Imagine you're on the beach with the love of your life. You're both looking at the sunset when you realize that it's time to pop the question. You hold your soon-to-be fiance's hand, get down on one knee, and present her with a small, tiny box. Inside of that tiny box is a diamond wedding ring that costs twice your monthly salary. And you're just praying that she loves it. Your soon-to-be fiance looks down at the ring and then looks at you only to say yes. This, for most people, is one of the happiest days of their life. However, it's ironic because this is one of the biggest scams that most people fall for. And no, I'm not saying anything about the institution of marriage, but have you ever questioned why we propose with diamond engagement rings? Or think of what would have happened if you proposed without a diamond ring, or at least a ring that resembled a diamond? And while I can't answer that second question for you, I can definitely answer the first. And the short answer is marketing. That's right, the entire diamond engagement ring tradition actually took place because of an advertising campaign. During the late 1800s, diamonds were not rare at all, and huge diamond mines were discovered all across South Africa. And as a result, the market was flooded with many huge raw diamonds, essentially collapsing the entire diamond market. This was obviously detrimental for jewelers and anybody mining, processing, and selling raw diamonds, which is why the mining company De Beers had to think fast and change the trajectory of the diamond market forever. And that they did. Prior to the 1930s, when you proposed to somebody, a diamond ring was not a requirement whatsoever. It wasn't even a consideration. However, that all began to change in the late 1930s with one of De Beers' many marketing campaigns. At this time, De Beers was actively bombarding the public with messaging along the lines of, hey, the only way to prove your love to your soon-to-be fiance is by giving her a valuable diamond ring. And in 1938, De Beers even coined the term, a diamond is forever, insinuating giving somebody a diamond ring at your proposal ensures everlasting love. Not only did De Beers plan a hostile takeover of the average American engagement, but they also planned a hostile takeover over your bank account. Because not only did they want you to buy a diamond ring for your engagement, but they also convinced you that the only acceptable ring was equivalent to 2 months of your take-home salary, which is once again insane and egregious. However, people bought it up, and this myth is still perpetuated to this day. But all isn't lost, right? Because even if you fall for this scam, at least diamonds have some sort of market and value, right? While that may be true in some cases, you are never going to get the value back you paid for your ring. And ironically enough, in 1999, the De Beers chairman, Nicky Oppenheimer, said, quote, diamonds are intrinsically worthless. Basically laughing in the face of everybody that De Beers manipulated over the last almost 100 years. So yeah, De Beers specifically made you feel obligated to buy a diamond ring with your proposal, made you feel worthless if you didn't spend way more than you could afford on it, and also made you feel stupid if you ever tried to sell it and realized that it's actually worth nowhere near what you paid for it. Which makes me think that the whole diamond is forever thing was basically just a slogan ensuring that people never resold their diamonds. But that's just a theory. Regardless, it's kind of just sad that a tradition that is so ingrained within our society is actually based in manipulation and lies. Oh, and if you watched our video a few weeks ago about the craziest conspiracies part 4, then you might remember me talking about the crazy cigarette advertisements of the 1930s that also changed the world. You know, the advertisements that literally had pregnant mothers and doctors promoting cigarettes? Yeah, the advertisements of the 1930s need to be studied because they had such a detrimental impact on society. But that's beyond the scope of this video. Let's keep moving. Textbook trickery. Picture this. You are in the kitchen looking at your laptop with your family all anxiously waiting around you. You have just received an email response from your dream college either accepting or denying your application. And this moment feels like it could be make or break. Reluctantly, you click on the email without even looking, and slowly you unsquint your eyes only to hear your parents scream and to see the email say, accepted. This is such an exciting moment and milestone that should be celebrated. A few months goes by and the beginning of the school semester starts. You go to the college orientation and you are given a list of books you need to buy for your courses for this semester. Awesome. You decide to go to the school bookstore only to realize that these textbooks were more money than you've ever spent in your entire life. For a lot of students, this is not only disheartening, but extremely detrimental. Because if you've just paid out of pocket or got into thousands and thousands of dollars of debt to go into school, only to then need to pay thousands more in textbooks, you could be putting yourself in a very bad spot. And if you're in school, your capacity to work is already low, meaning that you're setting yourself up not for the future you thought you had, but for a lifetime of debt. If you currently are or were a student within the last 20 years, then you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that college textbooks are literally a scam. Obviously, college textbooks are extremely expensive, but the scam goes far beyond that. In 2010, the average college student in America spent $1,200 per year on textbooks and school supplies, with the majority of that being textbooks. Similar to buying a diamond engagement ring, buying expensive textbooks seems like this is something that people have always done, but that's actually not the case. Over the last 30 years, college textbook prices have increased by 800%. And this gross exponential growth in textbook price doesn't only have an effect on the student's wallet, but also on their education. Because as of 2016, almost 65% of college students in America opted out of buying textbooks because they were too expensive. As they should, although not having the most up-to-date textbooks does directly have an impact on their ability to learn, affecting their education, the whole reason they're in school in the first place. And the textbook companies not only know this, but actually go the extra mile to ensure that the older textbooks not only have less value, but are also less helpful. Let me explain. Most college or university textbooks have a new edition every single year, and today typically include some sort of bonus content only accessible with the newest book. But this access code can only be used once, and typically the content that you are accessing you will only have for a certain amount of time. Some universities require you to buy a brand new textbook so that you can access this code to do extracurricular homework or to do additional tasks, meaning that colleges are not only complicit, but actually an active participant in the scam as well. Because in most cases, colleges get a commission from these hyperinflated textbook prices. And if you compare a previous edition to the most recent edition, there is typically little to no changes in terms of content within the textbook. However, there is one major change you will notice, and that is the order of the information. And the reason why this is one, so the textbook seems different because things are in different orders, but also primarily so that the textbook of the previous year is not usable to current students. Imagine if you're in a class and everybody else has the new textbook, but you have the old textbook. If you're asking somebody for help and they say, oh, flip to page 45, but your 45 isn't their 45, your experience is already dwindled because you didn't spend the money in a new book. That is an intentional scam that directly affects your learning experience. And if you're a company that literally sells textbooks, I have no idea how you can justify this practice at all. To me, this is insanely predatory and just upsetting. Don't be complicit in the scam. Inform your friends and also do what's best for your interest and your budget. These college textbook companies make enough money. Get a used copy, or if you find one online, well, I won't tell anybody. The diet pill debacle. The health and supplement industry is riddled with scams. And that topic is an entirely separate video on its own. But the supplements I want to focus on specifically are diet pills. Diet pills generally are any supplement that claim that they can help you lose fat or burn calories simply by taking the pill and doing nothing else. These supplements are largely cash grabs that prey upon insecure people, and it's truly upsetting. Most diet pills rely on deceptive marketing, white lies, and half-truths to even be able to make any sort of claim, and that's why I wanted to call them out and expose a lot of the scammery associated with diet pills specifically. If you're a bro that's ever had a little bit of flub on your chub and you just wished you could kind of get rid of it with the snap of your fingers, then you would have been the prime target for one of these diet pill companies. Because the entire dream that these diet pill companies sell is that they can help you take all of your insecurities and literally excess body fat away if you buy their product and, well, give them money. But the reality is that over-the-counter supplements are not able to help make this change. They do nothing at all. Diet pills, also known as fat burners in the fitness industry, typically contain one of two ingredients. The first ingredient is some sort of caffeine-based stimulant, and they may, in addition or potentially separately, also contain an unregulated herbal blend, both with the same goal of either suppressing your appetite or boosting your metabolism. Already, you might have noticed a massive issue with the whole unregulated herbal blend, and that's because this blend is being curated and sold by companies that truly do not care about the consumer because their entire business relies on scamming the consumer. Because nobody in the supplement or fitness industry really believes in any sort of fat-burning supplement. It just doesn't work, or at the very least, not in the way that they say it does. Regardless, these stimulant mixes and herbal blends are only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to these fat burners, because assuming that they're at least safe, which they are in most cases, you're still being scammed, but at least you're not being scammed and poisoned. Now, the appetite suppression or potential metabolism boost you may find from these fat burners is negligible and doesn't cause a noticeable result at all in most individuals. What people who do take fat burners typically experience is a slightly reduced appetite and potentially a placebo effect. But even if this reduced appetite is causing you to lose weight, the weight loss is extremely not only only negligible, but also unsustainable if it even happens at all, simply because you're not addressing the core issue at play, which is typically your caloric intake and the amount of exercise you get on a daily basis. But besides the fact that the effects are either unsustainable or non-existent, these blends are not without their side effects. And common side effects from these fat burners include insomnia, anxiety, high blood pressure, and even digestive issue because of the massive amount of stimulants. Also, in combination with these herbal blends that your body may have never interacted with and may have an interesting reaction with. So already we're off to a rough start because the blends that they're using are questionable, and the results are actually, well, also once again questionable. But I think the nail in the coffin for fat burners or diet pills is definitely the deceptive marketing and business strategies that drive the entire industry. Roughly 95 to 99% of the entire fat burning supplement industry use ridiculous before and after photos and have insane claims that are not backed by science whatsoever. And in the United States, the National Institute of Health has even stated that very few dietary supplements that have been marketed for weight loss have been proven to be effective at all. And what is more reported with fat burning and weight loss pills is not weight loss, but actually serious health complications, typically liver damage and heart problems. Two things often associated with unregulated herbal blends and caffeine abuse. And I know a lot of you might be thinking, wow, this guy talks really fast. He must drink a lot of caffeine himself. And truthfully, I don't do caffeine because this is me normally, and I couldn't imagine myself on caffeine. And I know you definitely wouldn't like it either. But predatory marketing and questionable ingredients aside, one of the biggest issues with the whole diet pill fat burning supplement industry is the fact that they rely on legal loopholes to keep their products on shelves. These companies know that they're selling scams, and these companies are doing everything they can to be just within the lines to still be technically legal. In a lot of cases, companies that are selling these fat burning pills are typically either rebranding or tweaking existing formulas depending on whether or not they've been banned by the FDA yet. If there is an existing fat burning blend, then companies can simply white label that product, slap their name on it, and sell it. However, if the FDA bans one of the ingredients in this formula, then all they need to do is simply swap that one ingredient and start a new brand that hasn't had their reputation tainted by the fact that they used banned ingredients by the FDA. One of the biggest loopholes that these supplement companies use is the actual term supplement. While these fat burners and diet pills have claims that would be reminiscent of a pharmaceutical drug or potentially something like a GLP-1 medication, these drugs are technically classified as a supplement, meaning that they have not gone through the rigorous testing and scrutiny that pharmaceutical drugs do. Now, that by itself doesn't mean that pharmaceutical drugs are off the hook. That's an entirely separate can of worms, but focusing on these supplements specifically, they leverage the fact that supplements have a lower bar when it comes to testing and a lower barrier of entry when it comes to getting into the market. Now, you might be asking yourself, how are diet pills and fat burners still selling in 2025 if they've been sold over the last, 20, 30, 40 years and they have been proven to not be effective? And the reason is, a sucker is born every day. Unfortunately, there's always going to be people that are unhappy with their self-image and struggling and looking for any sort of way to feel better or potentially make progress. And that's where these pills are able to take advantage of these people. And these brands know that, which is why they're remaining on shelves and still make sales in this day. And the whole weight loss, fat burning supplement industry is still a multi-billion-dollar business. These companies know that they're selling hopes and dreams in a bottle. And for that reason, I would consider them a scam. But if you're a bro who's considering buying some sort of weight loss supplement or fat burning pill, just understand that literally going on a 10 to 20 minute walk every day would be more effective and safer and cheaper than any fat burning supplement you could buy. Eat healthy food, get active, and enjoy your life. It's really that simple. Don't let companies tell you you're not enough or that you need their product to be worthy. Claw machine chaos. Before we get to the last entry on this list, if you guys have enjoyed this video about everyday scams you're probably still falling for, please feel free to let me know if you want a part 2 by either leaving a like or leaving a comment below. This video has been super fun to make, and unfortunately there is so many scams to cover. Regardless, let's talk about claw machines because I am still salty right now. Picture this. You go to your favorite arcade, convert $100 of real money into 40,000 fake tokens. You take your tokens and you go to the large claw machine, and in there you find the cutest stuffed animal ever. You decide you're going to play a few rounds, and you end up spending the next 20 minutes using all of your credits, basically $100 real, trying to get the stuffed animal worth maybe 20 that you did not get. This may or may not have been a real situation that happened to me recently, and for that reason, claw machines are scams. I'm half joking. They're not a scam because I lost. They are a scam because I lost and I researched it and I found out they're a scam. Basically, every machine that takes money for a prize has something known as an adjustable payout. And what an adjustable payout is basically a mechanism within the computer, within this device that you're playing on or gaming on, that determines whether or not you're going to win or lose a prize. Claw machines are not a skill game. They're literally just gambling machines. And for that reason, under US law, they are classified as amusement machines, the same classification that slot machines are under. And they all basically work the same way. Now, going back to adjustable payouts, basically every prize-based machine can only be won once a certain threshold of money has been earned. Let me break it down. Let's say that there's a claw machine that has a bunch of toys that are worth $1 in it. Let's say that the person who owns the claw machine is really greedy. And let's say that he sets the adjustable payout to every time the claw machine makes $100, the claw machine will then officially have the strength required to pick up one of the $1 prizes. In that case, every 99 children is going to be very upset that they wasted their dollar and didn't get a prize. However, that very lucky and random one person who actually gets a claw that has any sort of strength to it is going to get a prize, and, well, they're going to get their dollar back in the form of that toy. However, for 99% of people, that is not the case. And the game that seemingly relies on skill actually ends up being a game of chance. So yeah, if you've ever used a claw machine and wondered why the thing was just so limp and if it would ever win ever, well, it will win, just not when you're playing, or at least not likely. And the claw does have strength behind it, but it's only going to happen 1 out of 10, 20, 30, 50, 100, 1,000 times. And that's how claw machines and all gaming machines make money. They have items that are worth X amount of money, and they'll only let you win once they've made their return that they want to make. So if you ever see a machine with really expensive items in it, just realize that it's going to take a lot of money for that prize to ever be paid out. And while it's actually really fun to go to arcades and play with claw machines, understand that you're paying for the experience and the fun. And you are in no way, shape, or form ever going to make a return in any form of gambling. But speaking of fun, if you've watched this far in the video, you're probably having fun watching Trust Me Bro. And if that's the case, I highly recommend you watch the video on screen right now. It's a video I made about completely wrong facts that everybody still believes, including yourself. You guys have been loving the videos recently, and I can't thank you enough. So thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, trust me, bro.